Far from their homeland, under foreign skies and surrounded by unfamiliar language, customs, and power, the people who had been carried away from Jerusalem into Babylon lived in a state of emotional whiplash, because exile does not only relocate the body, it unsettles identity, faith, and hope all at once, and many of them woke each day with the same aching question: how could this have happened to us? The people who once sang songs of Zion, now sitting beside foreign rivers, remembering a city that lay in ruins, feeling both grief for what was lost and anger for what had been allowed. And into that, confusion voices began to rise, promising quick relief, messages that said the exile would be short, that God would surely bring them home within a brief time, that their suffering was only a temporary inconvenience before a rapid return to normal life. And such words sounded sweet to wounded ears, because when pain is fresh, the promise of immediate escape is hard to resist. Yet back in the land, Jeremiah heard of these claims and was moved to send a letter, not filled with the dramatic assurances many hoped for, but with instructions that sounded almost shocking, because he told them to build houses, to settle down, to plant gardens and eat what they produced, to marry and have sons and daughters, to seek the peace and prosperity of the very city that had conquered them, and to pray for it, because their welfare would be tied to its welfare. And this message required a profound shift in perspective, from seeing exile only as punishment to understanding it also as a place where God's purposes could still unfold, where obedience was still possible, where life was not on hold even though circumstances were painful. He warned them not to be deceived by false prophets or dreamers who spoke visions born from their own imagination rather than from the heart of God, explaining that the exile would not end quickly but would stretch across decades, long enough for a generation to rise and another to grow old. And this was not meant to crush hope, but to anchor it in reality. Because hope built on illusion collapses, while hope rooted in God's faithfulness can endure even a long season of waiting. And in the heart of that letter shone words that have carried comfort across centuries, the assurance that God's plans for them were not for destruction, but for a future and a hope, that even discipline did not cancel his covenant love, that their story had not ended in the smoke of Jerusalem's ruins, but was moving toward restoration in his time. And this required them to learn a deeper kind of faith, one that trusts God not only in moments of miracle, but in years of ordinary endurance, faith that prays and works and raises families even in foreign soil, believing that no place is beyond the reach of God's presence, and that obedience in exile can be as holy as worship in the temple once was. And this letter reshaped their understanding of what it means to belong to God, teaching that his faithfulness is not tied to a building or a border, but follows his people wherever they go, and that sometimes the path to renewal leads through a long valley rather than a quick escape.